After a sudden spike in mutant energy, the X-Men, then consisting of young adults Cyclops, Angel, Iceman, Marvel Girl, and part-time X-Men Alex Summers, aka Havoc, and his lover Polaris, the daughter of Magneto, rushed to a small, deserted island in the South Pacific Ocean called Krakoa after their mutant detection device, Cerebro, detected an unknown mutant signature somewhere on the island. However, upon arrival, the youth were viciously attacked and captured by the inhabitants of the island, hive-minded birds and a multitude of monsters. Desperate to save his young superheroes, Professor Charles Xavier, a very wealthy scientist, founder and leader of the X-Men, and a mutant telepath of the highest order, sought the help of his scientific colleague and ex-lover, Dr. Moira McTaggart. Reluctantly, Moira allowed Xavier to recruit her teenage mutant students. Petra, Darwin, Sway, and the third recently discovered Summers brother, Gabriel Summers, aka Kid Vulcan, within only hours of meeting them, were psychically trained by Xavier, and to Moira's chagrin, her students turned superheroes in training were sent to the South Pacific Ocean, to Krakoa Island, to rescue Xavier's original X-Men. Luckily, with Xavier's psychic training, Moira McTaggart's students managed to save a now depowered Cyclops from the same monsters that had attacked his team the day before. The students, led by Cyclops' youngest brother, returned him to the Blackbird. Kid Vulcan then programmed the jet to autopilot his eldest brother back to Xavier, who awaited them all in Westchester County, New York, at the X-Mansion. As the jet lifted into the air, Cyclops watched as the students immediately rushed into the island's forestry. But then suddenly, Sway was torn in half by the monsters, who had now grown and evolved. The monsters incinerated the rest of the team, including Cyclops' brother. By the time the depowered Scott Summers arrived at the X-Mansion, he had gone completely crazy. Both horrified and ashamed of the slaughter of Moira's students, after forcing Cyclops to sleep, Xavier altered his memories of how the original X-Men were captured, making Cyclops believe that the monsters had simply released him. He then erased all memories of Moira's students, especially any memory of his brother, Gabriel Summers. And for good measure, to her disgust, Xavier made Moira swear to keep the very existence of her students and the failed mission a secret. Now, more desperate than ever, Charles Xavier decided to try again. But this time, to rescue his young X-Men, he would choose mutants with experience, adult mutants. Mutants from all around the globe whom he had kept his telepathic eyes on over the years. Namely, Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler from Germany, Wolverine from Canada, Sean Cassidy, aka Banshee, Xavier's old Irish friend who was visiting America at the time, Shiro Yashida, aka the Sunfire from Japan, Pyotr Rasputin from Russia, who Xavier gave the code name Colossus, John Proudstar from America, who Xavier gave the code name Thunderbird, and from Africa, the woman who, as a little girl, once pickpocketed Xavier in the streets of Cairo, Egypt, the now 5'11" tall goddess named Aurora Monroe, whom he gave the code name Storm, Mistress of the Elements. Charles Xavier wasted no time sending the new recruits to Krakoa, led by a now repowered Cyclops. Fortunately, after surviving minor assaults from the monsters that inhabited the island, Storm and this new adult team of mutants succeeded in finding and freeing the original teenaged X-Men, who had been held captive within a temple that suddenly appeared in the center of the island. After getting the teens to safety, it was realized that some of them had been weakened, while others had been completely depowered from being fed upon by the vines that had held them captive for so long. Suddenly, the grounds of the island quaked and convulsed, forming a giant humanoid body out of the very terrain. It was at this point that it was revealed that the island itself was the mutant that Cerebro had originally detected. Krakoa Island was alive. The monsters that had attacked and captured the original X-Men and slaughtered Moira's students were all made from the mutant island itself. Immediately, the monolithic island attacked. Krakoa alone battled the combined might of both the teenage X-Men and the adult mutants. One sentient island versus 13 mutants. And Krakoa was winning. That is until from over 4,000 miles away. With the help of Cerebro, Professor X himself joined the battle. While the island was distracted, at Cyclops' command, Storm took to the sky and summoned lightning into herself. And after the combination of the telepathic assault by Professor X and the energy blast from Cyclops and his brother Havoc, Storm, Mistress of the Elements, sent ethereal bolts of lightning down into Polaris, Mistress of Magnetism. Polaris had been depowered from being fed upon by Krakoa. It was the goddess Storm that was able to both restore and then supercharge Polaris' magnetic powers, forming the first of what would be known as a mutant circuit. And with the women's powers now in sync, Polaris was able to interact with the Earth's core, and together Polaris and Storm created a magnetic pulse so strong that they were able to launch Krakoa into space.